Why the Titanic, which was built in 1200 days, was forgotten in just 2 hours. April 10, 1912, it was the day when the world's largest and most expensive ship, the Titanic, was ready to begin its journey. There was peace and calm, and there was no chance of a hurricane. 1,500 passengers had boarded the ship, and millions of people stood to see the start of Titanic's maiden voyage. Little did the crew of the Titanic know that 6 mistakes had been made during the construction of the ship, which was about to depart shortly, which would make the ship suffer the worst. Welcome viewers will know the most expensive mistakes of their time, which if not done, maybe not because of the Titanic crash, but because of its success, it would have been famous in the world. Finally, such a currency had 6 mistakes, then 40 years of experience. Even the captain of the atomic company, Edison, did not see the captain's 40 years of experience, let alone the experience of operating 107 ships of the Star Line. Don't even look at and Wills, who had manufactured more than 5 ships before the Titanic alone. Construction of the Titanic began in 1907 and took about 3 years and 2,000 workers to complete. The ship was fully completed, but a series of tests were yet to be carried out. Titanic's builders' confidence in her was further boosted when Titanic successfully passed her first test run. It was marketed in the newspapers under the headline, Unsinkable Titanic, the unsinkable ship has been sheltered. The destination was Nelrab, the city of America. The cost of traveling in the economy portion of the Titanic was $30, while the cost of traveling in the first class was $300, which is 300,000 rupees today. And finally, the day passed when the Titanic was to start its maiden voyage. At exactly 12:00 p.m., Mistake number 1 embarked on her maiden voyage in the Titanic, and at the same time, the mistakes of the Titanic began to be revealed to the captain owners. The deadline had been made by the side to reach New York in any case by April 17th, that is, in just a few days. That is why the captain had set the ship's speed very fast from the beginning. This was Titanic's first false captain summit. Criticism due to the instructions and pressure given by the owners, as it was the maiden voyage of the Titanic. If they had not arrived on time, the reporting of the Titanic would have been greatly damaged. There is also a part of these procedures, and that part was violated at the very beginning of the voyage in the Titanic. In a short time, the ship left the Southampton boat so far that nothing could be seen but the sea in the distance. Mistaken number, it had been 3 days now that the Titanic had been sailing, except for a short stop in France and the Isle of Wight. The Titanic had been sailing towards New York for 72 hours continuously, due to which the visibility had also decreased significantly. On the same night, another ship was just a few hours away from the sunken Titanic. This warning was given at least 6 times, but due to the negligence of the virus operators, it was hardly normal for them to miss the most important warnings. And there were many VIPs in it, that's why most of Titanic's attack was busy serving the first-class passengers. A very important warning had also been missed. The Potomac was now rapidly filling the range of the iceberg in a most fearless manner. But the Titanic could still have been saved from disaster because the ship's watchmen were separate who could report any icebergs. Unseen from a distance, Japan was ready for religion, but there was one thing they did not have to see from a distance, and that thing was far. Couldn't sell from a distance, and that was the third mistake of the Titanic. The news of the ice spread came to the captain when the ship's watchman informed that there was an ice cube the size of a football field right in front of the ship, but it was too late. There was a mill because the icework was so close that a number 4, because in the Atlantic Ocean most ships have to face such ice banks, which can be easily handled by large double ships. Perhaps Captain Smith did the same. I thought that as soon as I got the news of the ice break, Captain Speed ordered to stop the engine of the ship and also to change the direction of the Titanic. Of course, Captain Smith tried hard to avoid the ice cricket, but the distance proved to be so futile. Wark had now hit the center of the atomic, but there was still plenty of room for Titanic to ring. Even so, the fourth mistake of atomic is not showing its work. Experts believe that the visits that will be made on the body of the Titanic were not made of this team, but of cast iron. But because it is softer than steel, that's why the place where it hit the body of the tank on the ice would open due to the reverse pressure, and then what the captain of this country was afraid of. There was a big oar, and now the water had started to fill the bottom of the ship. In this dangerous situation, the entire crew and passengers were alighted, and at the same time Joseph Burrows, like Diebeck on board, was also undoubtedly drowned in the titular water. The filling had begun, but there was still hope for the Titanic to survive, as the Titanic was designed in such a way that it would not sink even if 3 floors were filled with water, but the ship was unfortunate enough to cross the team's sleeves. The water had now reached the 4th floor. Now the matter was out of hand. The battle was slowly sinking into the ocean. Now it was time to save the lives on board without worrying about the ship. The plan was to shift the passengers to lie boards until someone came to help, but on this occasion the 5th mistake showed its work. Yes, there was room for a total of 32 life quarts on board, but due to the shortage, only 20 ounces were kept. Passengers were 1,500 and votes were only 30. Mohammed VI was a scholar of disbelief everywhere, and everyone wanted to board these few-day boats at 12:45 p.m. The emergency boat was launched, but there was another holiday where the boats were launched without being fully loaded, in which most of the first-class passengers were given priority. That is, those who were more affluent were seated first. If more passengers were seated, I was drowning in the calendar with human life. At 18 minutes of the clock, all the lights of the attic were extinguished due to the 64 circuit, and the next moment the ship broke and divided into 3 parts like Titanic. It took 2 hours and 40 minutes to send the Anwar of the ocean completely, and thus died in the cold water of the ocean in 1500. Let another Indian tell you that the water temperature at that time was -2 degrees Celsius. Even if the passengers jumped into the cold water, there was no chance of survival, because a human cannot survive for more than 30 minutes in such a low temperature. Moon was recognized by the crew of many of them who did not take luggage on the plane without ticket. The largest number of survivors were children and women. You will also like the video and share it with people. See you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.